goals.
Have you been caught by surprise, with the kind of the cultural phenomenons that you've created with all these movies through the years, Back to the Future series, Indiana Jones, Goonies, The Sixth Sense? Does it surprise you?
Well, I think it is surprising because when you're making those movies, it's just what we do every day, and then suddenly someone will come up your age and say, I grew up on your movies. I go, oh, really? And you don't realize
The impact, yeah.
the impact and the influence that you have, but it's really nice.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I didn't get a chance to hear your answer to the question. Was there a point where you realized that, wow, I'm really successful?
No, it hasn't. But there was a real turning point for me in my career. I never knew I wanted to be in the movie business. I was sort of floundering around when I was about 20, 21, and had gotten out of college at UCLA. You know UCLA? Are you familiar with
US
the Bruins?
Is better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I got to work on a movie, and I thought, wow, this is great. You can make a living doing this, and I just fell in love with making movies, and so I was going movie to movie, and then when we made Raiders, that was the real turning point for me because it began my association with Steven and George Lucas. I met Kath, and it was my first sole producership, and it was my first Academy nomination, and it was my first sort of blockbuster movie. So I'd say, right around and then, I thought, well, this is going to be okay, but...
What is it like to work with Steven Spielberg, by the way, as opposed to the other directors you've worked with?
Well, now we sort of all feel like we've grown up together a bit, so it's certainly he's in that icon status, but we've all been around each other so long that we don't necessarily put him in that status amongst ourselves, but it's a genuine pleasure. I mean,
Yeah.
Especially as producers, because Steven is so clear and sure about what he's doing that there's never that feeling that you're stranded, in a sense, with somebody who isn't quite certain about what the next step is. You always know, and consequently you can always plan and be ahead of the game and feel that every single moment that you're putting into your effort is going to be realized on the screen in a way that may even go beyond what you imagined. So it can be really exhilarating working with Steven.
It's inspiring every day. It's exciting to come to the set every day because Steven understands that there can be problems along the way. He doesn't get upset if there's a roadblock or something goes wrong that we didn't know, and he loves to take on that challenge and include us in solving the problem. And it actually, in a lot of cases, turns out to be a better result. So, that's what's great about working with Steven is he's open to a lot of things, and it's just exciting to be there.
And tell me about, he took over AI after Stanley Kubrick passed away, and when you take a look at, his ability to direct, obviously, did that help to have him kind of swoop in and to complete that film?
Well, we've been talking about AI even before Stanley passed away. Stanley had been having many, many conversations over the years with Steven, and even at one point, he said to Steven, I think this is more an appropriate movie for you than me. So, yes, I think that he was the right person to step in. And when you say swoop in, he can do that because I don't think he would have ever done it if he thought it was subject matter that he wasn't suited for. But because he'd had that, sort of stamp of approval, let's say, by Stanley Kubrick, I think he felt that he could do that, and I think he felt a certain obligation to carrying through Stanley's vision.
Okay. I'm just curious, you two, are there any dream projects at this point in your career that you'd like to see completed?
I would say this was a real dream project to get finished. So there's a tremendous feeling of accomplishment associated with Benjamin Button and getting this done. Luckily, there's not a lot of projects we've been sitting on for 18 years. So.
Well, it was this has been the year of our long projects. Indiana Jones took 20 years to get made, but for much different reasons. Mm-hmm. So we're getting, sort of the ones that have been with us a long time out of the way this year.
Steven and I are working on a project of Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, and started that about 3 or 4 years ago. So I think if we could get that off the ground this year, I think that would be a really, really good movie to do right now. I think the time is right.
Do you want to add?
No, I was going to say I have a project that I've sort of a passion project about a French gypsy jazz guitarist named Django Reinhardt, who is arguably the father of modern jazz guitar, and is very sort of close to me because my dad was inspired by Django, and we've had a couple of dogs named Django, so I'm hoping to get that made soon.
Who would you like to see play the role of Django?
Oh, I think Johnny Depp would be perfect. So if you're out there, Johnny, call me.
If you're watching Idaho Public Television.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
And I've heard Liam Neeson is playing Lincoln.
Lincoln. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's a final
Yeah.
deal. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I guess my final question for you two is an awful lot of people would like to follow in your footsteps, and your stories seem so unique because from what I've read, you both were under the tutelage of Steven Spielberg and Peter Bogdanovich. And what would you tell those folks who are trying to come up in the business today? Is it different than it was, 20, 30 years ago?
Well,
How do you do it?
I do think it's different, and each path is different. Ours are uniquely different, as well as everybody I think that we know in the business has a different path. But for me, it's always been, just do your best at whatever you're doing, and try and get as much experience as you can in the field. When I started, I was, tasked to do everything. And I think that what happens is you get noticed along the way if you're doing good work, and then you have to take advantage of that opportunity when it comes. But do your best, no matter whether you're making the coffee or doing the Xeroxing, do your best and somebody will notice.
I would say that that's very true, because I commented when I walked in that I actually started operating camera just like these guys here at a PBS station. And I had no idea I wanted to get into the movie business. I was studying film, but not necessarily thinking that that was going to be my path. And when it eventually became that, it was because Steven Spielberg was actually witnessing me working on a movie. And he came up to me after that picture was done and he said, what do you want to do next? Because I'd like to hire you as my assistant. And that was really, it just reinforced what Frank was saying, because it was something I hadn't really given thought to, but in retrospect, I realized it was because I just simply was trying to do the best job I could.
And I would imagine today, there are different tools available to even beginner filmmakers, right? With all the technology out there and the internet and everything. That's probably changed the landscape quite a bit.
It's changed the landscape if you want to be literally a filmmaker, but there are so many other jobs associated with the film industry that I think that it really parlays into what Frank's saying more, which is you get these opportunities within an environment of the film industry, and you just need to be curious and you need to work hard. I think a lot of people don't realize the hours involved in these jobs in the film industry, just like the jobs I'm sure here, people can sometimes work 12, 14-hour days, and the good news is you should be having fun. So working 12 or 14-hour days is not that bad, especially if you're young. But it's hard work, and it continues to be hard work. And even though we're at the state that we are now, we can be on a set all night long for 20 nights in a row. And there are people who still say to me, do you really go on set? And are you there every night? And I feel like I've got to be there, because that's when the decisions are being made. That's when the creative judgment comes in. That's your moment to affect what's going to end up on the screen. And if you're not there, then you're really not participating.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
Pleasure
We
to be
appreciate
here.
it.
Nice
Thanks.
to talk to you. Thanks.